Sterner, the whole team over there at Townstone. I have confidence that the team at Townstone is going to make me look good. The result at the end of the experience is that the customer is always happy with the service they receive.
Remember, nobody values your business more than Townstone Financial, and I'm always available to answer your questions. Call me now, Barry Sterner, at 312-896-2111. That's 312-896-2111. Or go to townstone.com. That's TOWNSTONE.com.
Townstone Financials, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, Florida, Illinois, mortgage licensee 6629 and NMLS 136639, equal housing lender.
Looking for a job? Contact Express Employment Professionals and be part of their national hiring event. With one application, Express connects you with multiple employers and never charges a fee. Go to expresspros.com, find your nearest office, and call Express today.
Jim Talamonte, what's going on those roadways?
The outbound Ryan is jammed. 76th to 95th Street, where all traffic is forced off the expressway for a shooting investigation. To get from downtown to 95th, it takes 48 minutes, and there are capers delays inbound. I-57, Bishopport, both 17 minutes from I-80 to the merge. The southbound tri-state is bottled up. Lawrence to before the Grand Avenue curve. There's a stalled truck blocking the right lane. Westbound 8094 is packed. Clyde to Calumet Avenue. There's a wreck in the left lane along with road work. We see delays on I-55 northbound, Caton Farm to past Lockport Road. That's due to a crash on the left shoulder. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
More of Chicago's Morning Answer is coming your way next. First, your official Chicagoland weather forecast with meteorologist Steve Williams.
Blend of sun and clouds. It'll be humid today. The high 86. Increasing cloudiness. Warm and humid tonight. Thunderstorm late. Could be severe. Low 75. Clouds and humid. Shower and thunderstorm for tomorrow. The high at 81. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
It's 72 degrees right now. Your next news update in 30 minutes. Continuous coverage of the latest news, traffic, and weather at 560theanswer.com. I'm Elisa Z. Chicago's Morning Answer continues now on AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Rebecca Solnit writing in The Guardian. Every week I temper the terrible news from catastrophes such as wildfires from scientists measuring the chaos by trying to put them in context of positive technological milestones and legislative shifts and their consequences. You could call each of them a turning point. The point last week at which Oregon passed the bill setting the most aggressive clean electricity standards in the U.S., 100% clean by 2040. The point at which Scotland began getting more electricity from renewables than it could use. The point at which New York State banned fracking. Turning points is what she's looking for. Because, citing contents from a forthcoming intergovernmental panel on climate change report. Quote, climate change will fundamentally reshape life on Earth in the coming decades, even if humans can tame planet-warming greenhouse gas emissions, species extinction, more widespread disease, unlivable heat, ecosystem collapse, cities menaced by rising seas. These and other devastating climate impacts are accelerating and bound to become painfully obvious before a child born today turns 30. The choices societies make now will determine whether our species thrives or simply survives as the 21st century unfolds. Well, that's sort of tamped down hysteria. Normally, we're not going to survive when it comes to these Nostradamuses there and world government that make all of these dire predictions about what the world is going to look like. I remember when they said the same thing would happen by, 2001. Now it's 2051.
We have some more time. That's good.
Yeah, we got a little bit more time.
Yeah.
I
like that. That's nice.
It's good because, that means like Greta Thunberg has a lifetime's worth of fear-mongering that she can do for profit. for more on the topic of climate change because, of course, this is going to be from a policy perspective. I mean, you've got the backdrop of the infrastructure / Green New Deal that's pending. You also have the Biden administration wanting to do other things like build transmission lines to transport renewable electricity across states, which they say will improve grid reliability. Well, what's happening in California, as an example of this, is not a model that should be scaled, it actually turns out. So for more on this discussion, we're pleased to be joined by David Simon. He's a fellow at the Washington-based Committee to Unleash Prosperity and a lawyer here in Chicago. David, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
Good morning. So you heard the call for a turning point in the minds of more, and against the backdrop of these customary dire predictions from the UN's IPCC about what the world is going to look like in the next 30 years if we don't take the evasive action to run our economies on switchgrass and Vermont maple syrup.
I did, and I'd say that the Doomsday claims are religious in nature. They're not based on scientific facts. Scientific facts show that things are fine in terms of where the climate is now. It's not an imminent threat of any kind. In fact, life on Earth is getting better. People are living longer as the temperature warms slightly. Improved growing seasons for crops, and I think we're going to be all right. I wouldn't sell everything. Let's put it that way.
Well, what is this whole theory about, the environmental impact of having children on the environment? Because yesterday or 2 days ago, and Dan tweeted this out too, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are receiving an environmental award for deciding to have only 2 children. And they're doing it because they want to preserve the environmental impact of only having 2 children.
Absolute insanity. The single greatest thing that people create solutions to problems. The more people we have, the more solutions to problems we come up with. So as problems come up, we are more likely to come up with a solution if we have more available minds out there. So when you have more children, you have more people. More people mean more brains to solve problems. So there's no reason not to have children.
But who started that having a smaller family impacts or reduces our impact on the earth?
Oh my gosh, this has been going on at least since Paul Ehrlich's population bomb in 1968 that turned out to be a dud, right, David?
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. And I would add that one of the people who was very supportive of Paul Ehrlich, a man named John Holdren, also has been very, very involved in this climate scare. He was President Obama's science advisor, I believe.
I just love they are the it couple, that prince and princess, or the former prince and princess, whatever their status is. They really the it couple for sentimental barbarism in the Western world now. I mean, they're just such disgusting people. They have the same philosophy, practically, as Chinese communists, who now, by the way, are on a 3-child policy. They upped it again. But Meghan and Harry are on the 2-child policy. I mean, you talk about connecting this to the ideology of the central planner of the autocrat, because that's really what this population control movement is about.
That's exactly right. It is an attempt based on either some truly felt or completely invented view that there's something wrong with the planet, and that there's, more importantly, something wrong with human beings, how we interact with the planet. But that is being used as an excuse to completely and draconianly reorganize our economy in ways that will be very harmful for us, that will give great power to the federal government.
But part of this just because it's hurricane season in the southeast, and talking about wildfires, and you're in the context of climate change, we know we're going to hear this argument. You make a point in a recent piece that NOAA, and this has been the case for a long time, that there is no link between climate change, between global warming specifically, which is what we used to call it, or they used to call it. There's no link between that and natural disasters.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. I mean, some years we have more, some years we have less, but over the long term, when we look at it, we look at the data, the number of hurricanes isn't greater, et cetera. And more importantly, the way we adapt to these things means that if there were an increase, it would not be a problem. Over the last 100 years, 80% less people around the globe, over 80% less people around the globe die from natural disasters, even though there are 4 times as many of us. So even if there were to be more hurricanes or more tornadoes or more forest fires of those kinds of things, human beings would adapt and find ways to even better protect ourselves than we do now.
What about, the heat waves that are going on in the West? I mean, St. George hit 117, which is the highest temperatures they've ever seen there.
We have hot weather, we have cold weather. It goes up and down. The Earth gets warmer and colder over very long periods of time. Human beings have a very small role in this, but there's something called the medieval warming period. Hundreds of years ago, the Earth was significantly warmer than it is now. Then it cooled down a bit. Lately, it's over the last 100 years, it's warmed up about 1.3 degrees centigrade. But the amounts that human beings affect this are very small, and the variations in weather happen over time. I mean, in the 1930s with the Dust Bowls, we had extremely hot temperatures in much of the United States. And while parts of the world and the country, you may have particularly hot weather. Sometimes we have particularly cold weather in other parts of it at times. Cooler summers in some places, warmer summers in other places. It comes and goes, but the numbers are not particularly unusual or extraordinary.
No causal link there, but there is a link between energy consumption and economic vitality. The United States, the world's largest economy, is also the world's largest energy consumer. When you stop consuming energy, like energy consumption fell by 5% last year, you stop enjoying economic vitality and all of the associated benefits in terms of quality of life.
That's exactly right. The United States economy has become more and more efficient over the last few decades, so we use less and less energy to achieve the same purpose. But when a country isn't using energy, it means that it's dying. If you look at maps at night, pictures at night of places in the world, the rich places are all lit up because people have electricity. Buildings are lit up. And places that don't are dark. You look at the famous global photo of North Korea and South Korea at night. South Korea is all lit up. North Korea is just maybe a couple dots of light, but it's completely dark because it's so poor. People are starving. They can't afford electricity for their homes, and office buildings even stay dark much of the time because they just don't have the power. They don't have the ability to do that. And to the extent they do, it's way too expensive for them because they're so messed up.
Yeah, it's interesting too, the reaction to those pushing the hysteria around climate change, because number one, they're generating pushback from within that community. I mean, the most notably. Michael Schellenberger, who wrote this incredible apology for his participation as an environmental activist in some of the climate change hysteria over the last 30 years. He's been an environmental activist, and he's written a lot about this for Forbes. His book last year, we talked to him about it. And also former top scientist at EPA for the Obama administration, Steve Koonin, who also wrote a book called Unsettled, and we talked to him about that as well. And they're having a hard time persuading even their constituents, people that are, generally paying less attention than obviously an environmental activist or a scientist like Koonin. And I know that because the EU is now proposing climate tariffs, or is about to propose climate tariffs, because they can't persuade their constituents to do what they say is in their self-interest. It really annoys the central planners when people don't have the same Chicken Little philosophy that they do, and so they're coming at it from a lot of different angles. And all of these indications are they're having a very hard time generating the hysteria they seek to generate about climate change. I guess this is why they need to extend COVID.
You got it exactly right. Mr. Kunin's book, by the way, is world class. The book Unsettled, one of the big points it makes is that the models that are being used to predict this climate apocalypse are extremely unreliable. They can't even reproduce the temperatures we've had over the last 100 years. I mean, it's like saying we're going to stake our fate on a test for a new disease. Yet when you test people, say you test 1,000 people actually have the disease, the test comes back negative for many of them. And when you test 1,000 people who don't have the disease, the test comes back positive for a lot of them. The results are completely unreliable, even for people what the results really are. Why would you believe that? Why would you believe the test is any good at predicting the future?
And what they do is they say, we're going to make the cost of things more expensive through tariffs, taxes. We're going to punish you through reduced energy access, so you have rolling blackouts like you do in California. So until you sign on to what we want to do, we're going to punish you. So it's not persuasion, it's coercion, government coercion in advance of, whatever they say the models say.
Completely true. And at the same time, and when it comes to things like the tariffs you're talking about, they'll also, by the way, happen to benefit favored local industries.
He is David Simon. He's a fellow at the Washington-based Committee to Unleash Prosperity and a lawyer in Chicago. David, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Have you ever gone to the